What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky back again. Buck, how you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing all right. The normal stuff, like summertime. Got some little stuff going on around the house, like some repairs and all this other stuff.
What projects? Enlighten me here. What are we working on here at Casa de Brooks?
Well, it's not anything fun. I got my air conditioning having a little bit of an issue with the air conditioner, so trying to fight with insurance, get that rectified and repaired. If not, I'm gonna have to go out and buy a new unit. And DJ, no one wants to spend that kind of money on a new unit.
No.
So trying to get all this.
We haven't been running ours, man. Like we have gone. We're like, okay, this is the year. We're gonna as soon we got the blackout curtains. So then when it's the hot part of the day, we shut it down, and then as soon as the sun goes down, open up all the windows, try and get some flow through there. But it's definitely, we're living at about 6 degrees different than what we normally do. And the hope is that we will acclimate to it. But I haven't seen covers in a while, Buck. I'm gonna be honest with you. I leave the covers off. Trying to save a few bucks here over the summer. We got a fun show today. We actually we're gonna have our buddy Rhett Lewis on. He's gonna join us, I believe, next week. We'll have him on. He'll give us some feedback from the Manning camp, where you got a chance to see the top quarterbacks in college football. A bunch of them were there, including Drake May from North Carolina. So we'll have Rhett on, give us a little feedback on that. I believe next week, and Nabil can throw it in the chat just to confirm, but I believe we have Chris Peterson coming up Monday. So that'll be a fun one. So looking forward to that. He is great. The former coach at Boise State and Washington always has a lot to offer, not only on the football side, but the leadership space as well. So some good episodes coming your way. Today, we're going to spend the bulk of the time talking about the SEC and the Big Ten NFL players. So I thought this would be kind of a fun little project here, Buck. If we took the 22 best starters in the NFL that came from the Big Ten, and we matched them up with the 22 best starters that came from the SEC. What do those teams look like? Who has the edge? I think it's a good way to compare what we, believe are the two top, talent producing conferences in college football. I think it'll be a fun exercise. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. But I don't know if you got a chance to see. Did you see the clip that got released of Frank Reich talking to the Panthers and their scouting staff about what he looks for, the important traits of the quarterback position?
No, I have not had an opportunity to see it. I've seen like some of the stuff online, but I'm looking forward to hearing this. I love knowing what the insiders know about quarterbacks.
Yeah, this was released, I believe, on the Panthers website, and a lot of these teams give you a behind-the-scenes look at the draft process, which is great. The Colts have done it. The Jets have done it. Add this one into the mix as well. So it's really cool to kind of get a chance to see behind the curtain a little bit of what was taking place in the run-up to the draft. So this was put out on social media by the Carolina Panthers. This is Frank Reich, and this is the 5 things he looks for and he values in the quarterback position. So I figure we'll play this little clip. We'll come back and get a chance to talk about it.
So, actually, just in respect to quarterback play, I'll just say this. When I was coaching Peyton Manning and watching how he operated as a kind of personal coaching exercise, I was just like, well, what makes this guy special? And so I came up with this 5 traits of great. This is what I got from watching Peyton Manning. And this is how I think about quarterback play. Number 1 was the quarterback should be the toughest guy on the team, mentally and physically. A relentless mindset of nothing's going to stop me. It's a toughness, it's a confidence that is palpable, and the whole team feels it.
Bryce Young, what a talent.
Number 2 is footwork and finish. Games play from the ground up at any position, so he's got to have good footwork.
You see the elusiveness, the quick feet of Bryce Young.
3 is accuracy.
Bryce Young threads the needle.
It's tight windows, we all know. Accuracy is really important.
He just threw that into the smallest of spots. Oh, what a throw! A perfect strike.
Number 4 is playmaking ability, the uncanny ability to make plays in the clutch. When it really matters the most, somebody needs to make a stinking play. The great quarterbacks just find a way to do it.
In the end zone, touchdown, Alabama!
Check this out right here. Young's dead to rights. Boom, flips around and sidearms it across his body. Dime, touchdown time.
And then, number 5 is what's called the X factor. Just a way to say all the other intangibles. I like to say the quarterback is a multiplier effect. So if you have the offense and the team right here and it runs through the quarterback, X times 1 equals X. But we want him to be a multiplier. When you put the team and the offense through him, you should get a bigger outcome because he makes everybody else better.
All right, Buck, I want to get your immediate reaction after hearing this, because when I saw that, I was like, ooh, this is right up our alley. This is stuff we'd love to talk about. So just your reaction. I wrote all 5 of them down, but just your immediate reaction upon hearing that.
Absolutely love it. And I'll say this, full disclosure, Frank Reich and I played together in Buffalo. In fact, he threw the first pass that I ever called in the National Football League in a preseason game.
Nice.
And so one of the nicest dudes I've been around. It really impacted watching him go to work, watch Jim Kelly. When he talks about toughness, first and foremost, DJ, he almost kind of quoted something that we've talked about, where we talked about Steve Young saying, "Not over my dead body."
Yep.
Like that part of it, when he talked about the quarterback and the toughness and how everyone on the team has to feel and sense his toughness. To me, I thought that was everything. But we'll get to the physical stuff. But I think that quarterback carrying that weight, that aura, that sense, to me, that is everything. And so when you're looking at quarterbacks, I mean, people talk about like that tough guy, that John Wayne type that kind of walks through the door. That's what the quarterback has to be. But it can't be fake. It has to be genuine and authentic, the type that you feel and see in game. You feel his toughness. And so to me, that's what I took away. Man, that quarterback needs to be a tough hombre if he's going to be a franchise quarterback.
So when he was saying this, so many different things, but we'll do them one at a time. You talk about the toughness, and you talked about playing with Frank and playing with Jim Kelly. Like the guys that came to the front of my mind, Jim Kelly was right there. So think about Frank has been around Jim Kelly. He's seen that toughness, and obviously we've seen what Jim Kelly's had to go through health-wise post career, which is another level of toughness that he's displayed and shown. He talked at the top about how these were things he took from Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, his toughness, the neck injury, all the stuff that he, went through health-wise and still was out there. Okay, he was around him. Then I was thinking, he was around Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers played a playoff game without an ACL. Like Phillip Rivers went on, made that long streak of not missing games, incredible streak that he went on. So like the quarterbacks he's been around and had a chance to get his hands on and be teammates with and coach, the elite ones all had that trait. And then I was thinking currently, if we all acknowledge Patrick Mahomes is the gold standard, I mean, how can you forget the image of him with the high ankle and Andy Reid saying, "Hey, we got to get you out of here." Oh, heck no. He just refused to come out of the ball game and still played at a high level. Like that is not a good injury for a thrower to have to deal with. And he just powered right through it.
No, DJ, let's just talk loosely about the top five that we've talked about in the National Football League at the position. So you talk about Pat Mahomes. We've seen it with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow bouncing back from that ACL injury. We see it each and every week with Josh Allen, the way that he plays and run around and does his thing. You see it every week. And Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert played against the Jags. The Ribs played the whole season, didn't flinch. Then let's think about Jalen Hurts and what Jalen Hurts brings to the table. And we can go on because, look, it's 10 quarterbacks. But at a minimum, every quarterback that we talk about being an elite quarterback, toughness is a part of their DNA. It's a part of the job description. It's a part of what they have when they present it. And you've seen it, and you have vivid examples of them playing through stuff to continue to lead their team.
You can go back if you're interested, go back and listen to the podcast we did during Joe Burrow's rookie year when he played against the Philadelphia Eagles. Remember, we had calculated the number of times he got hit. He just got destroyed in that game and just kept coming back. And I remember talking to buddies with the Eagles saying, like, this might be the toughest dude we've ever played against. Like, you have no idea. Look at how hard we hit this dude. He just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And then, obviously, we can kind of look at this through the guy that they picked with the first pick. Bryce Young, not the biggest guy in the world. Bryce Young playing through shoulder, injury, not able to practice during the week, but still posting and playing on game day. And I think not only we've talked about the physical side of it, Buck, I think, and you could reference it as well, but that the mental toughness that goes along with it. I think those are two things that go together.
They absolutely go together. And so you talk about like Peyton Manning, and I would say this, maybe on the surface, you wouldn't view Peyton Manning as maybe the toughest guy. But I think toughness is not only like physical endurance in terms of being able to deal with the punishment and all that other stuff. But DJ, I think toughness has to deal with your discipline, your detail. Under pressure, can you do what you were expected to do over and over and over again? Can you deal with the chaos that comes with playing the position when the other team, man, they're having their way with you. They're knocking you around. They're confusing you. They're making it muddy. Can you continue to press on and find a way to the other side? So as much as we talk about toughness being the physical part of it, a lot of what we talk about is the resilience, the grittiness that elite quarterbacks must display, because everybody's going to have a bad day. You might even have a bad year. But how you respond to those things, that's when you really see the measure of a quarterback. And does he have the stuff to be a great one?
Yeah, no doubt. The next one to me, I think, in my opinion, is the most controversial of the 5, because he talked about footwork and finish, and he's talking about what he's looking for, obviously, in the draft process and those guys. This would be the only place I'll push back on this list because I think it's great. I love, Joe Burrow, always on balance, feet in the ground, always, where he needs to be, deliver the ball accurately. You can look at, a bunch of different quarterbacks throughout the years that come into the league polished. I would say, though, of those top 5 guys that you mentioned, I've seen Josh Allen make tremendous strides with footwork. I've seen Mahomes make tremendous strides with footwork. Jalen Hurts, throughout his development as a player, has made tremendous strides with his footwork. So to me, I don't know that would be one of my absolutes that would make it into my top 5. Obviously, Peyton, haven't been around Peyton. He, from the ground up, rock solid. Phillip Rivers, from the ground up, rock solid. Andrew Luck, rock solid. But I think that I think of all these 5 things, that's the one thing I think you can improve the most.
Yeah, no, and I think maybe from Frank's perspective, he's tying number 2 on that list, which was footwork and finish, with number 3 on the list, which is accuracy. We've talked about it. The better your feet, the more likely the ball is going to go where you want it to go. And so maybe that's the part of it. And maybe that's also the coach and the former quarterback in him, where he grades very, very harshly on the footwork and the way that you finish and some of the fundamentals, whereas we as scouts and evaluators who may not be, I guess, maybe as deep into the details of playing the position, maybe that's why we're like, okay, like I get that, but man, the accuracy, seeing where it hits, he's maybe more process. We're looking more result, even though, I don't know, you play the position, like it's different. So maybe that's it. But I will say this. I think the footwork part of it also has to do with a little bit of the new school athleticism that we're seeing at the position. When we've had these conversations with David Cutcliffe and others who are around the quarterback, they talked about middle infielder hands or watching them play. We had, was it Clay Helton? Clay Helton talked about Sam Darnold playing basketball and all of those things. I think footwork and athleticism might be tied into it. Wait, I want someone who is more than just your trained quarterback. That's all.
Or even pocket, or even mobility, like pocket mobility. That's a different way of looking at it. Like when I hear footwork, I'm thinking 3, 5, 7. Like, are you in alignment, shoulders over knees, over toes, all that kind of stuff, transfer of weight. He might even be, when you take footwork maybe a little broader, of pocket presence, pocket feel. Can you slide, climb, and maneuver around in the pocket? Maybe that's another area that I'm not taking into account.
And I think of it as athleticism because then my mind goes to Drew Brees being a junior level tennis player and the balance that he displayed within the pocket, some of those things. But look, it's one of those things that we've talked about. Like it's going to be hard to play with a statue in the pocket going forward based on the athletes that are on the other side. That quarterback doesn't have to be the best mover, but he has to be able to wiggle and maneuver within the pocket to be able to find throwing lanes and to be able to complete passes at a consistently high rate.
Number 3 on the list, Buck, he talked about accuracy. And in the clip, you hear him reference, hey, we all know how the windows are at this level, how tight the windows are, which to me is a reminder of a great tool to use when evaluating quarterbacks. And look, none of us are going to bat 1,000 on this stuff, but I do think it helps when you can locate those instances in college and evaluate those maybe more so than the whole of a game. Watching those 3rd and 7 plus reels, because in college there's so many big windows, they do tend to shrink in obvious passing situations. So finding those 3rd and 7 plus reels and those throws where maybe it's not an NFL tight window, but they're tighter than they would be on 1st and 10, in the college game. I think that was interesting, just a different way of looking at accuracy.
Yeah, so one of the situations that you bring up is 3rd down. DJ, I would say there's 3 situations that when you're evaluating the quarterback that you need to see him excel at when it comes to accuracy. 3rd down, red zone, 2-minute. Because in those moments, that's when the game and the coverage is the tightest. 3rd down, because people are emphasizing, you got to get off the field. So the coverage is tighter, maybe more man-to-man, more blitz, pressure, not giving up easy completions. We're going to challenge you. Red zone, the field space is smaller. So now you're throwing the ball in a phone booth because ball is 15 yards and in. You're dealing with a 25-yard rectangle. You don't have a lot of room. The coverage is super tight. And so your ability to throw it in the mailbox is the difference between a touchdown or an incompletion or interception. And then 2 minute game on the line. Can you throw a strike? 3-2 pitch. Can you throw it over the plate? And, we talk about accuracy a lot of different ways, but man, we have seen guys, DJ, who can't hit the side of a barn, but you put them in a 2-minute situation, they find a way to get into a rhythm and snap out of whatever slump or kind of scatter shot moment that they've been in. Third down, red zone, 2-minute drill. You have to be able to be accurate in those instances.
So you just gave me a great idea. I'm gonna pass this off to our buddy Bill Smith, who runs the Next Gen Stats department at the network. I think if we look at third down, red zone, 2 minute, 33%, 33%, 33%. Let's get the numbers for those three things and let's combine them for a score. And I'd be curious to see what it looks like with NFL quarterbacks. Maybe that's where we start. And then maybe we can start looking at, next year's draft guys and maybe put those guys through that little gauntlet there to see what it looks like. But 33% each for third down, red zone, 2 minute. I think those would be fascinating scores to come up with. So Bill, if you're listening, that's a project that's coming your way, a little summer project for you. Number 4, playmaking ability, Buck.
I mean, that's everything. It's funny because as a play caller, and you're a play caller, say this, man, sometimes you want a guy that can make you right when the play call is wrong. Pat Mahomes, as much as we talk about Andy Reid helping out Pat Mahomes and doing all that stuff, but man, Pat Mahomes makes those X's and O's come to life in a different way than somebody else. Sometimes you want a guy that when it all goes up in smoke, he finds a way to get you to the other side. And so when you look at Pat Mahomes and his superpower, being able to throw on and off platform, extend plays, create plays, scramble when needed, all of those other things. When you look at his utility belt as a superhero, he has that added ability. And so in a perfect world, you want a quarterback who has that. It is too hard to call 75 perfect plays as an offensive play caller. And so the more playmaking ability that your quarterback has, the lesser the load on the play caller to, be perfect when it comes to dialing in every play call. Because we've seen it, DJ. Those guys who can't do anything off the script, it makes it very difficult for you to play. You can get away with it maybe in the regular season, but when you get into the postseason, you got to have someone who can make 3 or 4 plays to get you out of a jam. And so playmaking is essential.
Yeah, and I think, you've talked about this in the past. We've discussed this. I know you bring it up a good bit. In the big games, big games, big moments, big games, end of game scenarios, your rivalry game, your bowl game, your conference championship game. Like, let's look at all those stages and see what you do on those stages. And if your level kind of jumps a little bit, or whether you kind of shrink a little bit when you get in those moments. We've seen them. We've seen the guys when you get on those stages and you're like, dude, like Eli Manning's probably the ultimate example of that, where wherever his level of play was throughout his career, when he got in the playoffs and in big games and big moments, he was able to find and locate another level of play. I think he talked about that in scouting with college kids, and you saw the clips when we were watching the clips of the video. You see a Texas game that was kind of getting away from Alabama, and you see Bryce Young making plays in just what we talked about, down in the red zone, end of game pressure situation, make a play, somehow find a way, figure it out, make a play. I think you've got to be able to look in those moments in those games and see what you get.
I think 50 Cent used to say winners win. Like, ultimately, man, there's something about it. We've talked about it using pickup basketball. You put that guy on a team, it doesn't matter who he has, he finds a way to win. Playmakers are able to do that. Going all the way back to the 2011 draft when Cam Newton came out, DJ, one of the things that I admired about his play is, man, this dude, he was a playmaker. He kind of made it happen. Like, we can go back now and look and say, man, he really didn't play with anybody. But DJ, there were moments they're down, they're losing in the Iron Bowl, and he brings them back, puts them on. We have evidence of him putting his team on his back. The clips that you talked about with Bryce Young, man, they're a handful of games, and this is Alabama. He has to bring them back in the Iron Bowl. We see him bring them back and keep the game close against Tennessee. We see how they won against Texas, all these other things. you want your quarterback to have a resume that has enough of those moments, because the one thing that your franchise quarterback is supposed to do, he's supposed to give everybody in the building hope. If we give the ball back to this player, he is going to find a way to get it done. We were there in the playoff game in the wild card run, like the Chargers and the Jaguars. And you can say whatever you want to say about Trevor Lawrence, but his ability to hang in that moment, his confidence, not only for like his confidence in his own ability, but the team's confidence in him is now at another level once you see your quarterback do it. And so it is one of the things that you have to have. That guy has to have some special playmaking ability.
All right, you just mentioned him, by the way. So if you look at Trevor Lawrence, toughest on the team, footwork and finish, accuracy, playmaking. He's 4 for 4 so far as we're going through this list. The fifth one I would add as well is X factor. He talked about being able to kind of, anyways, X plus 1 equals 1. He's like, but you're able to be a multiplier. You're able to get more out of your guys. And I was thinking about the previous era that we just had in the AFC, which was an incredible run when you had Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and I'll put Ben Roethlisberger even in there as well as guys who won multiple, championships and went on long runs. Those guys literally did. When you stacked up the roster, you're like, okay, well, you got to add a couple points to all these players because the quarterback makes all these guys better.
Absolutely. I mean, Tom Brady's the best example that you see. I mean, they put anything around him and he found a way to get it done. No excuses, no explanations. Like, hey, just get us to the finish line. And DJ, that's one of the things, because we go back and forth with the quarterback, right? So we go with the quarterback like, hey, man, you got to get him some weapons. Well, DJ, Pat Mahomes last year showed us what a franchise quarterback is supposed to be able to do once you pay him. When you pay the quarterback $50 million, that then prevents you from being able to put everything around him to make the offense perfect. You're paying him to make everything else right. That's the expectation. Otherwise, you don't pay the quarterback that much. And so that force multiplier, he has to be able to do that. Otherwise, why are we paying him? I mean, it has to be that he can elevate the play of others. And so, yeah, you would like to be able to put him with all-pro wide out and those things. But the way the money is going, he is going to have to be able to do the most with the least. That's just what it is. That's what great quarterbacks are able to do.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I mean, that is exactly the example last year of seeing somebody who grew and evolved into being somebody that, man, look at all the weapons he has, Andy Reid, all that kind of stuff. And then, that was his training, that trained him up, got him ready to go. And now, okay, now you're off on your own. You're ready to go. We trained you up. Now you can lift everybody else up with you, which is exactly what Patrick Mahomes did. So interesting. I wanted to have that chat with you here. We went about 20 minutes on it, Buck, just because it's so fascinating to me when you hear different versions of what you look for in the quarterback position. And, I think a lot of people have similarities. I think you'll see accuracy on every list. Any coach you ever talk to about what he, wants and admires in quarterbacks, accuracy is always going to be on the list. I feel like, that's the one constant. And I would say now, after having asked so many people about this, I would say the number 2 attribute that would show up, and it's not poise, which I've long been a fan of. You talk about pocket presence or different things, different aspects of the position. I would say toughness is the word. I don't know where you are, but I feel like that is the word that's come up more and more and more with guys we talk to about that position. I don't think maybe the average person realizes how important that is.
Oh, I think it's everything. And I think toughness, physical and mental, because both of them are there. DJ, the guys that we admire at quarterback are the guys that show up for all 17 games. I mean, like you sit there and said it, Justin Herbert, man, he got cracked. Less you guys would have sat out. But your franchise quarterback is expected to show up and take the ball every week. Yeah. Fair or not, that's the expectation. You saw it with Phillip Rivers. We've seen it with Peyton Manning. We saw it with Tom Brady. Those guys are franchise guys, Ben Roethlisberger, because they showed up each and every week. When you fill out the lineup card, that guy's in at QB1. There's something to be said for that part of it. Your guy has to be tough enough to play with some stuff. And even when he's playing with stuff, he still has to play at a high level. So people can take shots at Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott broke his thumb, but he still showed up and played. So I can deal with that. The toughness part of it from a mental standpoint is, can you bounce back? Poor performances, bad throws, poor season. how do you bounce back? And so for me, I'm kind of excited to see what Russell Wilson does, because look, a guy who has played at the level that he's played at for so long, there's a pride that you have that you're not going to go out like you just went out a season ago. And so I'm excited to see that. But yeah, the toughness, the bounce back ability, all of those things are critical to being able to be a successful quarterback.
Yeah, I won't, spend the time to go over all the names but just think about them in your head, and we won't go through them. We'll leave you with this thought. But if you think about the guys, first round picks, particularly top 10 picks that have not worked out at the quarterback position, and just run them all through a mental toughness checklist and see how many of those guys passed it.
Not many. So then that would bring me to this part of it. Do we need to look at quarterbacks that maybe not playing for the greatest teams, but they're having to do a lot of stuff with guys that aren't the high level stuff? So you remember the conversation with Josh Allen at Wyoming. Hey man, he didn't have a lot of maybe NFL players around him, but look at what he did. Look at how he played with that, how he raised their level. Some of that I do want it. It's hard to know how tough someone is unless you're in the huddle or on the sideline. But one of the things that we were always tasked with when we were scouts, you need to go see him live. And I would suggest you need to see him live multiple times. And one of those games needs to be one of those big moment games, rivalry game, conference championship game, playoff game. You need to see him when all the chips are pushed into the center of the table. How do they perform in those environments? Good, bad, or indifferent? How do they do that? Watching Justin Fields against Trevor Lawrence in the bowl game, being able to see how he responded to that. All of those things matter. Now, I don't know if he's going to turn out to be a great player, but he's shown some toughness. He's shown some potential and promise in Chicago. Well, some of that for me, in terms of my confidence in him, had to do with watching him go toe-to-toe with Trevor Lawrence in a big game where everyone was doubting what he and what the Buckeyes could do.
Yep. And I know some people are going to listen to this and say, well, what about a guy like Joe Burrow? He played with all those stud receivers and they won a national championship and he had everything around him.
Dig deeper.
The year before they did not. The year before they did not. And talk to anybody down there about the toughness he displayed. I can't remember the game who it was. Maybe it was Kentucky. He got absolutely stroked and ended up coming back in that game. The adversity he went through, from Ohio State to there. Remember all the videos of him in the mat drills and all that stuff? Like, toughness was never a question, mental or physical.
Not only that, DJ, because our guy Bruce Feldman has chronicled it when he went to LSU and how those guys talk trash to him every day. I think it was Devin White. Was it Devin White that he had to go back and forth and all of that other stuff? And so when we talk about scouting and digging deeper, part of the reasons you need to go around, man, you got to have those conversations so people can tell you what the toughness is like. And it ain't from the coaches. It's from the players, because the players will always tell you whether the guy's tough or not.
100%. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have a little fun. Big Ten versus SEC. We're going to go 22 players each, starting 11 on each side of the ball. Which conference has more guys? We'll get into that right after this. All right, Buck, I thought this would be a fun exercise. Nabil's done some homework for us. He's done some research, and then we're able to kind of make some adjustments and tweaks to it. But I thought we would go through, and why don't we just start with the offense first? I'll go Big Ten, you go SEC. I'll give you the players, and then maybe afterwards we can have a discussion of where we think the more talented team is. Again, the way we did this is current Big Ten and SEC teams. So an example, if you were played at Missouri, you were technically in the Big 12, but we're going to count Missouri as an SEC school. So that's where these teams are now. Just to kind of get a sense of the program and where the development is taking place. You ready to roll?
Let's do it, man.
All right, let's go Big Ten offense. One of the things about the Big Ten that's kind of challenging is that in 1 year, you lose Tom Brady, who would have been the quarterback. You lose J.J. Watt, who would have been a defensive tackle for you. You lose Devin McCourty, with Rutgers being a Big Ten team, would have been a safety. So three really good players have moved on. So quarterback. It's interesting. We used to have all those Michigan guys, and I think the Big Ten, has some Ohio State players as well. But right now, this decision really kind of comes down to Kirk Cousins versus Russell Wilson. You got as well. But I think, based off of last year, I have to take Kirk Cousins as the guy.
I think
State's Kirk Cousins.
What is he, a 3 or 4-time Pro Bowler? He's been at the top of charts statistically, even though he's a 4th round pick. Look, man, he's played pretty well for two franchises. First, the Washington franchise, then he goes to Minnesota. And we can talk about, hey, is he a primetime player or whatever? But coming from where look, and I remember watching him in that championship game, Kirk Cousins. I never thought that he would be what he's been. But, man, to be a starting quarterback in the league for over a decade, hats off to Kirk Cousins.
All right, so then we go the skill positions here. Running backs are great with the Big Ten. I ended up going Saquon Barkley over Jonathan Taylor. No wrong answer there with those guys. Receiver-wise, you get Stephon Diggs from Maryland, big time, and you can go any Ohio State kid you want to go with, but I went with Terry McLaurin, and then Garrett Wilson coming off a monster year, and then at tight end, George Kittle was an easy one out of Iowa. I feel really good about the backs and receivers the Big Ten's giving me.
I mean, just think about some of the guys that you left off. You left Michael Thomas off the list, and think about when Michael Thomas was in his best and how he was setting catch records and all that other stuff. And
DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, like there's dudes,
they're absolutely dudes. And so the Big Ten certainly has they've held their own when it comes to producing skill guys, particularly skill guys that can impact the passing game.
Yep. So again, in Iowa's going to give you a ton of tight ends. George Kittle will be the choice there. Tackles, offensive line wise, I love the offensive line. You get Tristan Wirfs and Rashawn Slater as the two tackles. The interior guys, you get Brandon Scherf from Iowa and Kevin Zeitler from Wisconsin, two veterans who've played well for a long time. And then at center, I had a couple options there. I ended up going with Tyler Linderbaum, coming off a really, really good year. Young player, just I think he's got a chance to be the best center in the league for a long time. But Corey Linsley from Ohio State would have been another good option as well. So that's the offense right there. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's a pretty good offense. When I look up front, it is hard to beat what they have. I will say this: the Iowa Hawkeyes are well represented. How
about that?
Hawkeyes. I mean, if you include the tight end, who is half offensive lineman,
five of the six guys.
I mean, my goodness, Kurt Ferentz and what those guys have done, the Hawkeyes, they've done a really good job of producing guys up front. And we've seen it. Normally, if it's not Iowa, we're always talking about Wisconsin guys. And so in the Big Ten, they have a reputation for producing the big uglies, the guys that can control and kind of deal with the people in the trenches. The hog mollies, I think, is how they were referenced. They do a really good job up front.
All right, so that I've made the case there. That's the Big Ten group. Now you get to step up to the plate, and I think you've got some tough decisions to make here with the SEC, buddy.
I do have some tough decisions, but it's a lot easier when we start at quarterback because I'm gonna go with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had the splendid run, obviously at LSU. We've seen what he's been able to do in Cincinnati. All those things that we talked about earlier in the episode in terms of being able to be a force multiplier. We've seen that happen in real time with the Cincinnati Bengals, and so Joe Burrow to me was the easy selection.
All right, let's I can't argue with that. Now we get to some decisions to make.
Guys. Now this is
running back, receivers, and the tight end. What you got?
Okay, so at running back, I'm just going to take Alabama. I'm just going to take the University of Alabama because
pick one.
I can take all of them. But like right now, let's go with the guy who was the leading rusher last year. Let's go with Josh Jacobs. And I know, look, man, it's hard because I got Derrick Henry who was there. I got Nick Chubb who is on Twitter. Squatting 675 pounds. Just watching that make my back knot up. I don't know why you want to put that much on your back, but hey, go for Nick Chubb. But Josh Jacobs is the representative. At wide receiver, though, man, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith. I mean, we have those guys. And so those are the three that I'm going with. But in doing that, I left off A.J. Brown.
Well, you can't take – I love Devontae Smith, but you can't take him over A.J. Brown. They're on the same team, and A.J.'s –
I guess, but
are you going to get grief for that? Let me save you from the grief you're going to get for that. The Ole Miss fans are going to get after you if you don't make that switch.
Okay, so Hugh Freeze's old people will come out, and I'll say A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown goes over – but, like, I still got DK Metcalf. I still have others that I left off. Like, it's really hard, dude. Like, just so many guys – in the SEC. But if you think about it, let's go A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Devonta Smith, and DK Metcalf coming off the bench. Look, that's a nice trio. And then we can throw in Dawson Knox. And even though Dawson Knox hasn't been like I would say, high-level Pro Bowler, all that other stuff, he's a really good player.
What if I tell you that you get 17 games out of Kyle Pitts?
I mean, then he would be there. But am I still going to really count him as a tight
No,
end?
I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm just saying, like, that's the SEC though. The fact that you've got somebody like Kyle Pitts,
How about Evan Ingram?
could be the best
How about,
tight end in the league if he runs
I
out
know,
there.
I know. How about Evan Ingram being able to catch passes? I mean, they have a lot of guys. Hayden Hurst is mentioned in the group, but you're right. Kyle Pitts has the potential to be that guy. But we'll go with Dawson Knox right now.
All right. It is a stupid exercise. I mean, I love my Big Ten team, but I mean, as you can see, as we're going through this, it's not fair. All right, go to your offensive line. This might be the area. Maybe I can get you with the offensive line because I love my Big Ten offensive line.
No, your Big Ten offensive line is spectacular. But I'm going to go with Laramie Tunsil at one tackle. I can have Braden Smith play the other tackle. I got Elton Jenkins, Trey Smith playing inside at the guards. And then, at center, Frank Reich has been really good coming out of Arkansas. But, I can throw David Andrews in there. I mean, there are a couple guys, a couple different ways I can go. I kind of feel like you may have me up front.
Well, can I give you one? Can I give you one that you can change there? Because you can go Andrew Thomas. Because I went with 2 left tackles. You're trying to do it by the book and do a left tackle, right tackle thing.
Well, Andrew Thomas is certainly better. Andrew Thomas is certainly better. But
so you're going to go. So you go Tunsil and Andrew Thomas. That's some good options you got here, and Ragnow. So, yeah, Trey Smith. That's a good group, man. I mean, I think Larry Tunsil may be the best tackle in the league. If we're going to, Trent Williams is in that discussion, obviously.
You know what? Hold on, wait a minute. Are we count Oklahoma yet?
Oklahoma's not yet. Not yet. They're not there
yet.
Texas and Oklahoma, not yet.
Because then that changes because he certainly would be able
to I like my wideouts, but I'd give you the edge on the wideouts. You've got the edge at quarterback. Maybe Big Ten, it's a fair fight when we're talking about the top 2 running backs. You have the SEC has more depth. Tight end, I'll take my tight end. Offensive line is probably a tie, but maybe you could squeak that out. So I mean, even if I'm being overly generous to the Big Ten, I give the Big Ten running backs, and I give the Big Ten tight end, and maybe O-line. You'd have quarterback, receiver. I mean, I'm being overly generous, but I think once we get to the other side of the ball, maybe it even slants even more towards SEC. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. Here we go. So we're going on defense.
I'll start us off here. I'll start us off with defense. Now, this defensive front for the Big Ten is no joke, especially with edge rushers. Now, I could have fudged just to mess with you, and I could have put Micah Parsons at linebacker, but if you know the drama that took place the last time we had this Micah Parsons.
I mean, there's no drama because I'm surprised that you didn't put him there.
I didn't flip it. I didn't flip it.
Then that would have created an opportunity for you to put another guy in. That is probably
it would have because think about this. I've got Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons as the edge rushers. Now keep in mind, I still had TJ Watt to choose from. I still had Joey Bosa to choose from. Like that. It's a good group of edge rushers. So, anyways, even with Nick Bosa, Michael Parsons, elite. You go with the DTs. I got to go to Ohio State for that with Cam Hayward and Draymond Jones, who just got some money, a good player. The linebackers, a lot of Ohio State linebackers. I got to go vets. I'm going to go with Levante David and Devondre Campbell. And then we get to the secondary again. A lot of Ohio State. Denzel Ward, Marshawn Lattimore. And then I will go with Antoine Winfield Jr. kind of as my third, he could be my nickel. And then at safety, I'll go with Brisker from Penn State, young player. And I'll go with Von Bell, who I've always been a good player in this league out of Ohio State, just got paid again. So that's the defense. I love the defensive front, no question.
I love the defensive front. I would have made that move. I would have designated Michael Parsons as a linebacker because then I would have been able to put another guy
up a little bit. Yeah.
Give you a little more juice on the front line. And maybe I remove either Devontae David or Devondre Campbell because Michael Parsons is a superior, more accomplished player that would upgrade it. But yeah, DJ, you have a tough time with the SEC. You have a tough time matching up with.
This is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one here.
I'm not gonna lie,
I can't wait to see the decisions you got to make here.
Well, for me at edge, I think it's pretty easy, even though there's some worthy candidates. So we go Myles Garrett on one side, Von Miller on the other side. Dang. Guys that were in the conversation and under consideration. Daniil Hunter from LSU, who, man, quietly, you look at his sack numbers, they're ridiculous. Montez Sweat and Josh Allen, all those guys are worthy candidates outside of the edge. Inside, though, this is where you have problems.
Yeah,
because you have Chris Jones and Quinnen Williams.
Whew.
But if I didn't want Quinnen Williams, I could add Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, you got Jonathan Allen, you got Deron Payne, you got Derek Brown. I mean, there are a lot of options on the interior where you can get it done and just kind of like play a four-man front. Linebacker, Roquan Smith is entrenched. Man, these are two really intriguing names: Nick Bolton or Drake Greenlaw. And you could pick your pick your poison. Both have been very productive. Both are dominant players. In the secondary, and this would be interesting because I got Pat Surtain at one corner. I have the options of Darius Slay, Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Horn, Marlon Humphrey, Tre'Davious White to play the other corner. Man,
I think you got to go Slay. You got.
Oh, you go with Slay, but I'm sitting here thinking, man, you got a defensive player of the year former and Stephon Gilmore. You have J.C. Horn, who, man, is the best that never has really played a full year. Marlon Humphrey's played at a high level. Tre'Davious White has played at a high level. All those guys are good. C.J. Gardner-Johnson playing the nickel. But, DJ, I think the guy that people sleep on are Mike Hilton, who played at Ole Miss. I didn't know he played at Ole Miss. He's a really good player, one of the best blitzing slot corners that you'll find. And then at safety, Minkah Fitzpatrick, the Honey Badger. I mean, there are other guys you can throw in there, but, man, just having Minkah and the Honey Badger, you just talk about being able to get it done. Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a tough one to compete with, man. I can say even like the ends, I would say is a draw. I would say the ends could be a draw for the Big Ten. You've got defensive tackle, you've got linebacker, corner. Yeah, I mean that's close. I mean that's a competition worth having. Safety, you get the edge there as well. The difference too, I think, is that I don't have as many options in the Big Ten, depth wise. Like you had decisions to make where you could go list of 4, 5, 6 guys. The defensive tackle list you just put out there is just ridiculous. Where all those dudes are.
Well, that's the difference. And I think, DJ, couple things like inside information in terms of like the scouting world. A lot of times what teams do is they put their best scout in the South, in the Southeast, so they can cover the SEC. If you think about the lay of the land and the way the pecking order rates when it comes to producing draft talent, the SEC is number one. And so you want your best eyes to take a look at the best players when you're making the decisions on those players that ultimately come from that conference. The Big Ten, though, has certainly closed the gap, and they've been intriguing. I think the thing that I would love to see is looking at the ACC in comparison to the Big Ten, because of late, the ACC has certainly produced some talented prospects, but being able to stack that up. But what you're seeing is, man, look, it's the SEC, and then it's the others. And we can poke fun, and people get mad about they talk about the SEC and the SEC in the football playoff, but the best players are kind of coming from that layer. I mean, they're coming from that area. I mean, that's ultimately that's where they're coming from. You just can't find them, particularly on the defense side of the ball in the trenches.
Yeah, especially interior, like defensive tackles. You got to go shopping in the SEC if you want a big time D tackle. It's just where they are.
I mean, that's where they are. You just don't. That's always been the difference when we go back to college. They just don't make the kind of people that walk the earth. They don't make them everywhere. They happen to find a bunch of them down in the SEC.
Well, the good thing is that with the Big Ten, you do a lot of your shopping at 2 places, at Ohio State and Iowa. Iowa for your offensive lineman and tight end. Ohio State for your receivers, your corners, your edge rushers. Really, it's you can get legit. They have, it's Ohio State. It's not like I'm telling somebody that something they don't know, but good groups there. But again, interior defensive lineman, tough. It's going to be tough. I mean, Cam Hayward is a really good player. Draymond Jones is a really good player. You had 6 to 8 guys though to list there in the SEC. Like it's just different deal.
Just a very different deal.
All right, that was fun exercise, man. Anything else you want to jump into before we get out of here, Buck?
No, it's fun having a conversation on quarterbacks. Frank Reich gave us some interesting stuff to chat on. It's something that I certainly would use. That it's always insightful. And I love when teams give us a little access like that. Even though we know a lot of these coaches and their friends and those things, it's great to hear them talk about what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. One update before we leave here on the pond. I took some pictures of some of the ones that we caught. Now, I was told that these were all smallmouth bass. It turns out that's not the case. We've got some different fish in there. Yeah, somebody, I sent it to a friend, my buddy in the South, and he wrote back, said, "Oh, you've got a perch. You got some perch."
Oh.
And I'm sitting here going, well, there's a little bridge, like this little bridge that goes over this little baby pond. Like, is he talking about like a perch? Like you look out over the pond? Come to find out, perch, I guess, is a fish. I've never heard of this before. What the heck is a perch?
I mean, your boy, I'm out my element. I have that
perch.
Look at you.
I don't even know what that is, but I've got better at the hook thing. I got better at getting the hook out, so I've improved in that department. True story. We ran out of worms because we were using worms to catch them. So I sent my son. He's 15. I go, Hayden, you got to go up to the house, man. We got to get some other bait to catch him with, because we have some fruit trees and stuff. I tried like attaching like a little grapefruit. I tried a little orange. No interest. The fish they weren't biting. So you know what he comes down with, Buck? A little leftover Chick-fil-A chicken nugs. I got two fish with chicken nuggets. Everybody loves Chick-fil-A. That's the whole point. That's what I'm saying. You can literally, Chick-fil-A is not just a human thing. Okay.
That almost sounds like a sponsorship deal.
I would take it. I got this. Is no Chick-fil-A gift cards have come my way yet. But if we could get that.
The fact that you're fishing with Chick-fil-A, there's something odd about that.
It works.
Sure.
I think I've stumbled on it. I think I'm making some inroads. I'm making some innovative stuff going on here in the backyard in the pond right now.
And if you told me that you hit them with the Chick-fil-A sauce on the nugget and they went for it, then I'd be like, oh my God, the fish.
No, yeah, maybe that's the next step. But I also think about that, like the fish, like think about how disappointing it would be, like how you always had coaches who always say, like, how you want to go out, how you want to fish. These other fish went out with a worm. Like that's not even a good meal. Like this guy went out, like this was like death row last meal. Like, hey, I've always wanted a Chick-fil-A. I'm going out. That's like filet for me.
Oh my gosh. I
thought about when I was catching these things too. You open the mouth, get the hook out. I thought about trying to look in there and see if I could see those my koi fish, whoever ate those things. And I see who the guilty party was there. I still got those catfish. They're skimming along the bottom. They want nothing to do with the worms. They have no interest in the chicken nuggets. I don't know how I'm going to get those things out. I have no idea. I don't know what they eat.
You're gonna have to go. Yeah, you're gonna have to go under. You're gonna have to find a way.
And everybody's telling me now that these catfish, that the whiskers, that they can they're like sting you. Like you could get messed up by the catfish whisker, unless somebody's messing with me. I think this is true.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know anything. The only thing I know about catfish,
my buddy Dave's a fisherman, and he sent me, hey, be careful. You catch that catfish, be careful with those whiskers. I'm like, what? I thought whiskers were soft. Like, what is going on here?
The only thing I know about catfish are when I was coming up, there was a minor league baseball team called the Carolina Mudcats.
Okay, yeah.
They used to be they used to be the Pittsburgh Pirates affiliates, and they had a nice little logo of the catfish and all that other stuff, but I know nothing beyond that.
Yeah,
catfish.
I ate a lot of catfish when I was in Louisiana, at Northeast Louisiana. They had a little spot there, a little catfish sandwich, good stuff. I'm not eating a catfish out of my pond, I can tell you that much. No chance. That thing's been eating food from Petco. You think I'm going to throw that thing on my plate? No chance.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
yeah, but hey, if you're listening, go get yourself some chicken nugs, throw that thing on the hook, see what you can catch.
There's something inhumane about it. It's so unbelievable.
All right. That's your fishing update for the day. We're going to be back next week again. Chris Peterson will be with us on Monday. Should be a fun episode. Hope you join us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.